The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast. Jason Roundsville here, joined as always by who? You guessed it, Dylan Ray. We have with us a guest. If I were just talking off camera, can't believe we haven't had her on here before. It's such a natural fit. And we have from the National Bowhunter Education Foundation, we have the Executive Director, Marilyn Bentz. Marilyn, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks, guys.
Yeah, and I know, I've been around, it seems like a long time, but by Pope and Young standards, I'll be the new guy for another 20 years. But, you were one of the people that, had just been a partner with, from the time I got here. Do you know how long that the NBEF has been partnering with Pope and Young?
Well, actually, longer than you or I. And we both grew out of the same organization back when our charters were formed, which, that's a long time, but those roots run deep. And we were both formed from the Conservation Committee of the National Field Archers Association. So we were chartered in 79 as a separate nonprofit. So 1979 for Dylan, who probably isn't that old, but at any rate, I'm not sure.
I wasn't even a thought in 79.
Yeah.
I don't even think my oldest sibling wasn't a thought in 79.
Oh dear. Okay, I'll get off that topic. But I'm not sure when Pope and Young was chartered as a separate organization, but we were in 1979. So a few years ago, we had in 2019, we had our 40th anniversary. As a matter of fact, when the convention was in Omaha that year.
Yes.
And we had a little celebration. And so, we kind of like to celebrate those things, the longevity, because I think for two nonprofits like ourselves to make it 40, 50 years is just really remarkable. But so our ties with Pope and Young then continued throughout the years because many of our instructors in the early years came from the Pope and Young ranks.
Okay.
And so I also know that probably many of the animals that are in your books, those records probably were killed by people that have actually taken our course.
I'm sure. Yes.
Yeah. And that kind of is something I've always wanted to do too with Pope and Young, is when somebody registers an animal, I would like a little question on there that says, have you taken bowhunter education? Because I think that success ratio would be really high. That's one of the things that we try to do with our courses is make that bowhunter more successful, because we know if he can be successful, hey, we got him hooked.
That's good. Do you cover do you have in your education anything about how to pass the little guys to get to the big animals?
Well, you want to pull that trigger or
for me, that's my biggest weakness. Isn't that I can't shoot the big ones. They're easier to hit, bigger target. I mean, if I could shoot these little forked horns, imagine how easy it'd be to shoot one of these great big massive 4-points. So
yeah. Well, we talk about taking that deep breath and
yeah.
I did have somebody, Jason. I had this discussion just this weekend, and they said, it was my dad. He's a smart aleck. He says, when are you going to wait and kill a big one? And I said, well, Dad, do I want to kill 5 small ones or 1 big one? Like, what do you?
Woo!
where's the line drawn? And he's like, well, yeah, you're right. And I'm like, this is coming from the guy. When I was growing up, there'd be 30 deer out in the field, and he'd go to shoot, and I said, Dad, you missed. He said, I didn't miss. And I look out there, and the littlest one would be on the ground dead. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. The littlest, 60-pound fawn on the ground. And he's like, I didn't miss. Hey, right where I was aiming.
I have actually done that once. It was the last day of an elk hunt, and it was leave now with a cow or leave with nothing. And I felt guilty, so I think I bought a new bow and obviously a bunch of stuff. And I'm like, I better be bringing some meat home to help, justify the expense of this. And so I had 2 cows come by my blind, and I'm like, you know what? So I think it's that time. So I drew, and I pulled up on the biggest of the 2. And then I genuinely thought about it and said, wait, that other one is probably more tender. So I switched and shot the smaller one. I actually have done that.
Yep.
So.
Since I've become more, I'll call it chronologically challenged. I don't bow hunt a lot anymore, but when my husband and I were really actively bow hunting, and I had a lot of opportunities to bow hunt, so I'm really pleased about that. But it was always the meat, and so the only animal we have is my husband's buck hanging in my office, but I have an Osceola turkey in my kitchen with but I grabbed the biggest shotgun on the rack for that one. So we've always been meat hunters, and I think there's those phases you go through, like 5. Well, can I shoot 5 or can I only shoot 1 big one? And I never advanced out of that meat hunter stage.
Yeah. I think which is the one where you just like to shoot as much as you can.
Yeah.
I think that's right. I think that's stage 2.
That's the murderous. That's the murderous stage.
Stage 2.
That is the equal opportunity death distributor stage.
We will come out with that on a Pope and Young t-shirt. Just so you know.
Yeah.
That'll be.
Yeah. We'll have Dylan and Jason's signature fork and horn with the equal opportunity death distributor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I like it.
Let's see if we can have those for convention. No, actually, maybe not. I don't want to run those by my board, because those guys, and here's the problem is these guys, they're straight up killers, but they get it done with the big stuff. You look at Jim
They
Willis.
kill 5 big ones.
I'm like, he just gets it done. He's like, oh, what'd you do? I mean, it's just, some of those.
Jim called me from Alaska. And I said, hey, how you doing? And he says he's in Alaska, so he didn't have to tell me what he was hunting or where he was. I just said, dude, go kill a big one. He said, I've already killed a big one.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. Well, he said, yeah, first morning I shot a big one. I'm like,
yeah.
Okay. It was like 96 inches or something. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Good for you, Jim.
It's, when Jim hired me as president, he was the president when I came on board, and just a great positive guy. Lives life. And first question I used to ask him every time I talk, hey, Jim, where are you and what are you chasing? Yeah. And that's the first thing I asked. And then we get that out of the way, and then we can visit about, business stuff. But I used to always enjoy that, because that guy does not let any grass grow. But it's, that's the thing, is you get the guys like that, and the Frank Noskas and Chuck Adams, and they're out there getting it done. They're shooting a bunch of animals, and they're shooting just monsters.
Well, I have Jack Frost on my board.
Yeah, there you go. Legend. Yeah.
And that's not to say that the Jeff Warings and the CJ Winans and they're on my board too, but that they will all bow down to Jack.
Yeah. I mean, how do you not?
Yeah.
It's that's it's interesting that you mentioned that, because Jack was on the board when I came on.
Right.
And so if you like me, you can thank Jack. If you don't like me, Well, he's Jack Frost. Too bad, you know.
Then you can't blame him.
Yeah.
Anyway, but it's interesting because, you know, you mentioned Jack and some of the other board members that we've shared throughout the years. And I think a lot of folks in the industry that maybe should know don't exactly know some of the workings behind the scenes of some of these organizations and how hard these folks are working. You know, you talk about Jack, he's on your board. He's been on my board.
Yeah.
He's, I don't know if he still is, but for years was on the S3DA board.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you start looking at, you know, here's a guy who has been there, done that 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
And, you know, needs no introduction. And what does he do? He continues to give back and give back and give back. And Jack's Jack's a prime example because he's that guy. He's gotten so much out of hunting, bow hunting, archery that he is in that give back stage and just phenomenal human being. And, but I think people underestimate the amount of behind the scenes that goes on between us.
Oh, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other day I was asked by someone that does a lot of marketing and PR in our world. And they asked me, they said, I'm looking for an influencer. You know, that's the term now for the personalities and the people that are out there all the time. And I got to thinking about that. And I thought, you know, I don't know if I know any young influencers, but I sure know a lot of older influencers. And you know, the Jack Frosts and they're not on Instagram doing their thing, but oh my goodness, you talk about somebody that could be a role model or
and have killed more animals than every influencer combined.
Everywhere. I mean, it, you know, that is it. When we get together as a board, which your next convention will be the first time we've gotten together as a board other than on Zoom, and you know, they will go through and they will tolerate sitting at that board meeting, listening to me give reports and going over financials and then everything else. But boy, when recess comes, they're getting out those videos and they're showing, you know, where they've been and what. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, it's interesting. You know, you mentioned the influencers, and for me, you know, I guess like it or not, I'm in that older group that just I didn't have social media. I graduated college without an email address. I mean, it's just, you know, it just didn't happen then. Email was in its infancy, you know, like a few people had it, and it was, you know, very cryptic, almost like texts are today. And so just not being around that, it's different for me because I look at it and some of these, you know, influencers, they're like, oh, I've got 1 million followers. And I'm like, I don't even know them. I don't even have 1 million people I like. So why would you, you know, and I look at it and I'm like, okay, well, I look at, you know, once you're going down the highway, you know, once the road is paved, you know, these guys are in their little, you know, Mazda sports cars or whatever. They're doing 70 miles an hour down a highway. And then you look at the Jack Frost. Jack was the guy who like rode his horse down there and like had to move the rocks out of the way so that they could make a road that could later be paved that they're now on. And so it's nice. Some of those guys do a really good job of recognizing that, you know, hey, they're riding on some shirt tails and you know, and then others, you know, being in the industry, you're around quite a few, and I like the good ones, and some of the other ones who are, you know, think they're pretty special. I'm just like, oh, well, good for you. I'm glad that you, at least one of us in this conversation thinks you're special. But it's always nice because you get the guys, you know, guys and gals that literally paved those roads and paved those trails and you know, did the heavy lifting to put people in position to do what they can today. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of folks don't even realize there was a time where we had somebody on the other couple weeks ago, and they were talking about a time they used to rifle hunt because there was not yet a bow season in their state.
Right.
People don't realize the amount of work they're just like, oh, well, we should add a bow. They didn't do that. We had to fight for that.
Yeah.
That's part of why we're here.
Yeah.
And there's still countries where you can't hunt with a bow.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's a lot of what, when you look at the amount of effort that goes into it. Same thing with what you guys are doing. You're basically out there. Your goal is to make people safer, better bow hunters.
Yeah. And we really want to emphasize that success component of that, because we know, matter of fact, in the late 90s or in the 90s, there was a survey done in New York State, and they found that bowhunter ed graduates were more successful. They harvested more deer than people that had not gone through the program. And, whether you take it online or from an in-person class, everybody walks away with something. They walk away with that little tidbit that, might just make the difference in their season. And we're, one of the topics now that we're looking at adding is something on the hunting saddles. You're probably well aware of those. And the issue we have right now is we're a little bit hesitant because there aren't any manufacturing standards yet on those hunting saddles. They are working on them. They're working on ASTM standards, just like other tree stands, so to speak. But they are a separate type of hunting piece of equipment. So they will actually have their own standards that they're manufactured to, and so we're kind of waiting on that. But you guys probably hear quite a bit about those.
Yeah. Now, how many? Maybe you can answer me this, because I know. I'm not going to say what state, but I was in a state and they're like, "Oh, well, welcome." And I drove there. Went to buy my, I knew tags were available, went to buy my tag. And they're like, oh, just put your education stuff in here. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And so, how many states right now require that in order to even hunt there, you have to have your guys' stamp?
11.
Okay.
11 states. Now, there are, in addition to those 11 states, there are other states that have regulations depending on where you hunt. And military installations can require it.
Okay.
Fort Belvoir in Virginia, for instance. There occasionally will be a wildlife refuge area that requires our certification. But basically 11 states.
Okay.
Now, one of those states requires a proficiency if you take the course in that state. Okay. And that's Alaska. That's pretty well known. Alaska also requires proficiency with firearm. And Alaska also requires a separate crossbow education course that requires proficiency. So, there you go. So, but Alaska, Connecticut, Idaho, Maine, Montana, Nebraska, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, and Vermont all require crossbow education.
Okay.
Oh, and then quite a few urban hunts too, such as there's an urban hunt that is pretty well known in Arkansas, and that those urban hunts require bow hunter education.
Okay.
And of course, Camp Ripley is another
Gotcha.
one. That's in Minnesota.
So when you're doing the crossbow training, how do you guys do that? You just take like a 3-hour course, then give them 2 days to do it, or?
Well,
I'm sorry. I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing.
I'm sick.
That's wrong, Jason. That's wrong.
Hey, I know I'm going to get an email on that. I'm going to get an email, but
hey, at least if you get an email, then you know who's listening to the podcast. You know what I mean?
There you go.
That's right. That's right.
And wasn't it Fred Bear that said any publicity is good publicity, or however he said that? But
Marilyn, my board members.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
But no, they basically wanted crossbow in Alaska to have a required certification, just like bow, just like firearm. So, and that requires a proficiency exam.
Yeah.
But now our courses have reciprocity with every state and every country that requires it. So
nice.
Whether the course is taken in Arkansas and you're going to New Hampshire, or whether the course is taken in South Dakota and you're going to New York, doesn't matter. It's full reciprocity.
Gotcha. That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to tease a little bit about the crossbow thing just because it comes up fairly often with us, and that's why we're so excited to see when they develop their own book, just because it's like, hey, now everybody's happy.
You bet. Everybody is happy. And, we're in the education business. And if you want to think of our organization as a business, we're all about education. And so we want to make sure that everybody that's out in those woods, and whether we're together or not, we want to be sure that everybody is safe and responsible. So that's kind of our mantra. That's
a pretty good motto to have.
Yeah.
It would be hard to find somebody who says, hey, would you like the person hunting next to you to be less safe and less responsible? You're probably not going to get a lot of takers there.
Right.
Yeah.
And I equate it to maybe even driving a car. I mean, you go and you take a test, you take an exam, and supposedly because of that, you're a safer driver, and you can be on the roads with me, and I'm a safe driver, and so everybody's on the same playing field. The other thing that we found too is sometimes that bow hunter ed certificate can be your ticket onto a piece of ground. And right now, access is one of the biggest issues with all of these new people now that we've created that are going outdoors from COVID.
Yeah.
People really want to get outside, and they're going to try bow hunting. They're going to try hunting in general. But somebody that has a bow hunter ed card certificate is showing that landowner that they are more responsible and they care enough to take this extra bit of education.
Yeah.
And so, it can also be a ticket to a piece of ground.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Good. And so now when you're looking, where do you see your organization moving forward? Where would you like to be? What would you like to be?
We have currently a huge opportunity, because there were new people that got out, whether it was just a walk in the woods or maybe they did try bow hunting, but we have a huge responsibility now to keep those people engaged. And that's kind of an immediate an immediate responsibility or a goal. But long term, we just want to make sure we're around another 40 years, for 50 years. I think that what we have is very valuable because we're kind of that little piece of the past. Both our organizations, I think, have a responsibility to future generations to keep that history going.
Yeah.
And, I think the method of delivery will probably differ. We've seen that during COVID, but we have to keep it up. we have to keep doing what we're doing because we don't want that little piece of history to be lost.
That's right.
You bet. How about internationally? Are there countries abroad that require that? So
we're in about 27 foreign countries.
Okay.
And currently, for instance, you can take an online course in New Zealand and become certified, just like certain parts of Canada. You can take the course online, but it's offered all over in Canada in person. But there are, in addition to Canada, 26 countries that we're in, and we have a regional director. And as a matter of fact, I think he spoke at one of your conventions, Anders Geyer from Sweden.
Yes, he sure did. Yeah.
Yeah, Anders is our regional representative in Sweden, but he's over all of Europe.
Okay.
So he and his cadre of instructors will go and create new instructors. They will go and hold consumer classes and certify people. And of course, everything that they do is the same curriculum. And usually there's an extra day or two added to the curriculum, just because they have a lot more regulations in Europe. But yes, we're in 27 other countries.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so here in the States, do you work with like some of the youth organizations to get in, kind of when they're getting started?
Well, primarily our biggest customer, so to speak, is the Fish and Game Agency of all the states.
Okay.
That's our primary customer because they are the ones that then work with all of our volunteers or basically hold classes within their state. So they're the first customer. Then as we go through marketing efforts, etc., we want to be sure that youth know who NBEF is.
Right.
Because what's happened is throughout the years, we haven't really contacted any of those youth groups or made contact with any of the youth groups to let them know that we're around, so to speak.
Right.
So now we're working and helping sponsor two organizations. Number one being NASP.
Okay.
And I think Pope and Young has also worked with them.
We have for a long time. Yeah.
We work directly with their instructors because a lot of their state coordinators are from the ranks of the state fish and game agencies. So
Okay.
it's kind of a natural fit for us.
Right.
We wanted to be sure that what they were hearing from their employer, basically, was the same as what we were saying to the agency. So there was a little bit of crossover there. And then we're also working with the R100 tournament. Have you heard of that? It's the Reinhardt. It used to be called the Reinhardt 100. Now it's just the R100 tournament. And we find that is a unique group because they really concentrate on families coming. They're not what I would call the hardcore 3D shooter that the typical wears the colorful shirt that's sponsored by everybody. And usually the people that come out to the R100 tournaments are the families and mom and dad and the kids, and they'll come shoot the R100, and it's a fun day. So we felt that was a good market that we needed to tap into also. So those are two of the major, I'll just call them consumer organizations that we help sponsor. Then we also, on the Fish and Game Agency side, are working with the R3 movement, retention, reactivation, recruitment, because what we're finding is the people that are in the state leadership positions of R3 are not always communicating with the Hunter Ed department, which is who we usually work with.
Right.
So, and they call them R3 coordinators in each state, but those R3 coordinators are usually young, maybe hunters, maybe not. So, we felt that there was a need to get in front of those people and say, look, this is who we are. This is how we can help you. And that's kind of how we approach it is, look, we want to help you. What do you need?
I'll tell you what I appreciate about the cognizant effort to reach the youth with good information is that when somebody begins hunting, they're flooded with a whole bunch of information these days about what to shoot, how to shoot it, why to shoot it, where to shoot it.
Yeah.
And they have no idea what to believe because they're told by this guy, you absolutely have to shoot your bow this way. This is the safest way to do that. This is the safest way to do this. And they're flooded with all this information and they have no idea what to believe. And so I think it's vitally important to have an organization like yourself that people can go to and understand. If I hear this from MBEF, I know it's the truth. I know that this is the safest way to do things. This is the best way to go about things. So I absolutely applaud you guys for making that conscious effort to reach the youth because they're flooded with all this information and they have no idea what to believe.
Well, and then that leads me to talk a little bit about some of our products because it's like I tell people, look, our means of disseminating our information about our curriculum, that may have changed. The method may have changed, whether it's online or whether it's an in-person class. But what hasn't changed is the anatomy of a deer, and so those products we have, the charts, the graphs, the little 3D models,
the models,
the big 3D models, that hasn't changed. The heart and lungs are still in the same place on a deer.
Right.
The internet didn't change. And so I want people to know that we do, like Dylan was saying, we do have this information that is factual and that they can depend on.
Oh, that's one of the biggest things. Shot placement is crazy. I mean, if you Google shot placement, you're going to have 7 guys say run up the back of the leg. You're going to have 12 say aim for the vital V. You're going to have, it's crazy. And it's no wonder these people are wounding animals because they've been fed all this information and they're trying their hardest to figure out who's right, who's wrong.
Exactly. That's very true. And so we will keep that up. That's no question that we'll keep that up and always have those products. And as a matter of fact, those products are all going strong. It's kind of crazy. Good. So that's the fun part. And the other thing that is rewarding about some of those products is we had an exhibit at the NASP Nationals, which the Eastern Nationals, which was held in Kentucky, and there were over 12,000 kids there. And
wow.
I totally yes. By the way, we exhibited there, and I gave out stickers. And I now have a theory on stickers. You give a sticker to a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and there's one thing they're going to do with that sticker, and that is peel that back off and stick it somewhere. But you give a sticker to a 12-year-old, and they're going to look around and they're going to say, "Oh, I'm going to put that on my bow case," and they're going to put that sticker someplace else. But anyway, that's my sticker theory. But so
my son's go-to is right there on the forehead. He'll just pop it right on his forehead and run around.
And boy, my husband was helping me, and he loved that. He figured out, right away, you tell that 2-year-old to stick that somewhere, or help them peel the back off, so they'll put it on their forehead. And so anyway, we had one of the little stick pin deer at that event, and I saw one. I assumed she was a mother standing there looking at it. She backed up, looked at it, then turned it around, and she said, "Ha, now I get it." I said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, I never knew why my son was shooting those 3D animals where he was." But she said, "Now I get it." She said, "That's teaching him where to shoot the deer, so the deer dies right away." I said, "That's right." So, it's worth it.
Yeah. See, for me, the shot placement has been ingrained in my brain for so many decades that it's fine when I'm in North America. But then I went to Africa, and they're like, "You don't hit them there. You got to hit them over here." And I'm like, that just took me a little bit to.
Yeah,
I don't think I ever.
And sometimes
adjusted.
we neglect that. We think because that is so deeply ingrained in us that we forget there's a generation that hasn't been taught where to shoot them at. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
We just forget that.
Yeah. I hunted with Ann Clark and Ann Hoyt, and Ann Hoyt was a killer. I mean, she was phenomenal. And she shot a 35-pound bow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was just dead on. I mean, she put us all to shame on our hunts. So
that's good. Well, now tell us. So, do you have plans this fall? Sounds like I know you're a bow hunter, but it sounds like just not as much time as you'd like to be out.
No, and that's too sad, because the more we get into this whole industry, the less time we have to really do it.
Yeah.
But now, no, I don't have any plans this fall. My free time now revolves a lot around 3 grandsons. So if I can get them out some way, and I've as they were growing up, they kind of used my little Browning Satori for pheasant hunting, and that's been kind of fun. But I don't have any big plans this fall, so I live vicariously through guys like you. So
not us. You don't live vicariously through us.
Yeah. It's funny because I get that same thing, and I'm sure you get it. It's like, oh wow, you're with Pope and Young. You must hunt all over the place.
Oh,
I get to hunt for a living. That's my favorite.
I'm like,
yeah.
And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's really great. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm actually, I have to leave a hunt on Tuesday to come back for a board meeting. So yes,
right.
And it's like, you can either be out there hunting, or you can be working to protect the rights so that we all can hunt.
That's right.
When we do have the time.
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
It's a good balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and it's all relative, because you said, you used to hunt a lot, and I'm like, I used to think that I hunted a lot, and then you meet some of these other guys and gals, and no, they hunt a lot. Like I used to think I hunted a lot, but I just didn't have the right perspective. So
right.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's one of your favorite hunting stories? If you had to pick one of your favorite bow hunts.
Oh, well, my favorite place to bow hunt is an old grove of oaks in Nebraska along a creek fed bottom. And it's just gorgeous. It's about 65 acres, and we can have 3-4 of us out there at once, and you can almost see the other people, but you wouldn't even know basically they were there because the oaks are so thick. And so that's favorite. And I remember when we started hunting with that landowner, he was a former rifle hunter, and he started bow hunting because he wanted to extend his hunting season. So he was used to basically going out at dawn on opening day, and within 20 minutes, he had his deer and he was back at the house. So when he got into bow hunting, he found out it wasn't exactly that way.
Yeah.
And so we met back at the pickup or the vehicles. We walked out one morning, and somebody had shot, but they missed and hit a tree, and the broadhead was lodged quite deeply in the tree. So, and we were all laughing about the story, and it finally hit that landowner. He said, I think you guys just hunt for the stories. And that's exactly a big part of it. So that's always a story I like to mention to people, that that you're not going to expect immediate results from a bow hunting trip necessarily, and there's a lot of variables, but it's those type of stories, and it's like those animals that we kill. That animal is gorgeous. It's a beautiful thing when you get it taxidermied, but part of the beauty of that animal is that story behind it. And that's why that animal might not be as pretty to some people as it is to you.
Yeah.
Because you're remembering the whole story, the whole experience.
Right.
So, but various things come up, and I had some great hunts with my Diana group, with, like I said, the Ann Hoyt and Ann Clark and the other gals that are in that group. Matter of fact, a couple, 3 of us still get together, and
nice.
We don't necessarily hunt anymore, but when we get together, but we sure have stories.
Yeah. Very nice. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's a story, but one question that we ask every one of our guests on this show is, when you do find yourself out chasing down a story or a big buck, what is one non-traditional item that you would find in your pack?
Jelly beans.
Jelly beans.
Jelly beans. That's a new one.
Okay. Yeah. We will add that to the list. And we continue to have a solid run for food representatives in our list. So
oh yeah.
we've had some good ones.
Yeah, I could probably pull enough food out of that pack for at least 3 days. So
yeah.
Jason, here's what we're gonna do. At convention, we're gonna come up with all the food answers we've been given, and we're gonna have that for a meal. We're gonna have Uncrustables and bacon and jelly beans and Reese's cups and whatever else we've been given. I'm gonna come up with every food answer we've ever been given, and we're gonna have a Pope and Young podcast food night.
Food night.
I like that. The podcast. I like the podcast experience. What? We could record a podcast during the podcast experience with everybody in the background eating bacon and jelly beans.
Yeah.
Now imagine eating. No, never mind. I like it. Let's do it.
All right. So, well, we will put that on the list for Reno.
Buffet style.
Buffet. and then Marilyn, let's make sure that we get with Heather so she can get you guys on the calendar and get you some space reserved.
Absolutely.
Look forward to seeing you there. We're in full speed convention planning mode, so it's
we'll sponsor a lunch again, or
excellent. We sure appreciate it. You guys have
there
always,
it is. Now it's out there. We got to do it.
Now it's out there. So it's we appreciate your support as always, and it's just a great partnership. And every time we see at ATA or some of the shows, it's always fun, and it's nice that we're working towards the same goal of getting people outside and making them safe and successful and just a good experience. So
you bet.
We really appreciate you being on today, Marilyn, and continued good luck to the NBEF and all that you do to keep us safe out in the woods.
All righty. Thanks so much,
Thanks
guys.
so much.
Thanks for having us.
You bet.
All righty. Bye-bye.